let's jump right in. How did you come up with a concept for this film, and what was the rehearsal process like?
The concept for this film came from many different, well, our team coming together. And I mean, I guess the first question, we had a series of questions that I asked, which were what elements, listen to each other's stories. That was kind of the first assignment before we even got together. And after we listened to each other's stories, what in your story, what were some real big takeaways for you in your own growth, for your own story? What themes stuck out at you? And then looking at other people's stories and the other artists within, what elements did you like? It could be design, it could be sound, it could be anything. And we kind of took it a devised theater route, which I know Taylor and Maria specifically can send to because they were part of all those rehearsal meetings. But yeah, we took it through this devised theater route where we just kept adding on layers. And there was a point when I actually spoke to Marissa and I was telling her about the story ideas and everything that was coming together. And Marissa was like, sounds like a short film. A short film would be cool. And then as soon as I mentioned it to the rest of the group and we were all talking about it, I even asked everyone, like, what art forms do you really enjoy? And a lot of them were like, okay, short films, theater, what art forms do you think you want to participate in? And they were like, all acting, all writing. Nick was like, I want to do poetry. Todd was like, I want to bring music into this. And I was like, okay, then we're going to bring it all in. Let's do it. Let's find a way. And that's kind of how the concept came, with the key takeaways really being about the really innate need to be heard and seen, mental health, the growth of, we all kind of were talking about a younger experience and our growth through that, and our confidence and self-actualization and entrapment and all of those different takeaways. And that's how it kind of came into making this film.
Amazing. That's really cool. I would like to transition and ask what it was like filming via Zoom, because everything was filmed remotely for the most part, except a couple of scenes, right?
Yeah, no, we did a couple of scenes. A couple of scenes were in person. I mean, and I will let the people who were doing those scenes in person talk for themselves. The only thing I could say for me was I got to film Casey in person, which was actually really cool and a really fun experience, like she mentioned yesterday. But Taylor, I saw your microphone go immediately off.
Well, okay, yeah. So before we even started filming, me, Jamie, and Marissa would have like 10-hour storyboarding and shot listing sessions. So that's kind of how it all started. And then when we were actually filming, well, okay, yeah. So it was hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was hard. Just kind of, telling people, okay, put your camera here. And then they would take a quick video and then they would send it. And I would say, okay, this is good. Change it a little bit. And then they would take a video and then they would send it. And it's like, okay, let's do it one more time. Yeah, so it was a lot of like back and forth, whereas like if you had a crew there, it'd be like, I'm ready, you're ready, let's go. So yeah, it was challenging. Marissa, you should talk about filming underwater.
Yeah, sure. But before I say that, I would say like the cast kind of touched on this a little bit before in their panel yesterday. But the idea that we were kind of asking them to do a lot, to switch between acting and technical elements and be their own crew. And that made the process just so much longer than it should have been. And, like their skill set isn't necessarily, they're not like thinking about the angle or the focus or anything that is so important to us on the technical side. So to just kind of like layer that responsibility in with the acting and then to also have Zoom be in between us was really challenging. And I'm very much excited that, that probably is going to start to phase out now, that we don't necessarily need to film on Zoom anymore these days. But yeah, so I was lucky enough to, I live near Nick, who plays Nickel, and I was able to go to his house safely and film in his pool with him. So it was just the two of us, and it was ridiculous. Like the challenges of, first of all, we were using my phone, and I had to really trust that the waterproof case would work. And it took a lot of trial and error, but it worked. And I was like a little bit scared the whole time, but it worked. And we just kind
So,
of
question, did you go underwater as well, or did you just lower the camera in?
Yeah, so there was a mixture of both, because like I had a hard time trying not to float away from him, like, but also like keeping my hands on the camera and like to hold it steady, but like also look where I'm trying to film. So a lot of the times I would just hold it under, like if I was in a shallower end, I would hold it under and just watch him and try to capture it, which we got a lot of footage, specifically because some of it was just me filming the wall. And then, we had some big rocks we were holding to like sink ourselves so we could do this. Like we had to really like work on our breath and our breathing and like make sure we weren't drowning ourselves. It was really like a challenging day, and it took us pretty much, we were in that pool for like 10 hours, which was not fun, but was also really fun in a lot of ways because it's a new experience entirely.
I think another thing that was fun too is that throughout the entire process, we were in people's pockets. We were on toilets. We were staring off into the woods on, the ground in the woods when Jamie was filming with Casey. I got a lovely screenshot of when Jamie was filming with Casey in her bathroom of Jamie just sitting on the toilet. So it was definitely hard filming virtually, and I can't wait until we can film in person again, because this was it was a long process, but it did have like its fun moments.
And I want to add on to say, like, as challenging as it was, and like, after this we're all going to take a little bit of a break to breathe from virtual connection for a few, and back moving forward we definitely want it to be hybrid, so that there is still this around the country ability to connect and all these things, but also in-person things, especially as that continues to open up, and it's opening up now. But the one thing I could say that was really exciting about all this, and something that I had intended going into the beginning, was that people would learn something through it. So I think the fact that they did get to play all these different roles definitely like had that thing, the arts education. So it wasn't just we're making art, it was also like, oh, here's education part of it. And it was challenging at times and funny, and transitioning also between different characters. And there are many moments, like Taylor just said, where we're looking all over the place in different areas and components. And I mean, I didn't really touch on this in the question before, but even rehearsals, something that was really beautiful about the rehearsal process was we'd always start with like a check-in. We'd always start with breathing. We'd always start with some fun movement thing or thing to connect. And they would be long rehearsals because we had a lot to say and there were a lot of ideas. So I think as much as it was challenging and as much as it was exciting, there's such a blend, because in every challenge there was a little bit like, I don't know, especially when Marissa's in water. I mean, there was a lot of laughter that day. Watching Marissa as much as it was
mostly me and Jamie just sitting off in the corner.
It was like, I mean, we started singing at one point. I mean, there was one point when we had to wait for it to get dark, and Nick and Marissa, and we were just, Nick's mom comes out and was like, can I take pictures? It was just like, there were fun, like absolutely fun moments where we were just like completely goofing off, which is what it should be, So I do have to share that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the best parts of production, is when you guys really feel like a community and really are in it together. So because it was over Zoom and because you kind of had to send all these videos and do all of these takes, goodness knows there was a ton of footage to work through. What was that editing process like, of just like weeding through what was going to work? I mean, you have 4 distinct worlds, plus the conductor's world. So how was it choosing how you wanted to tell the story?
So we initially split the work in half. So Marissa would look through I think it was Mary Kate's, and I don't remember. It's so long ago. Yeah. So Marissa looked through half the footage. I looked through half the footage. It took us like 2 or 3 weeks just to like label everything and sort through everything. And then she roughed half of it, and then I roughed half of it, and then I sent all of my rough stuff to Marissa to like make it look as amazing as it did. And then unfortunately for Mary Kate, she had to do a couple of reshoots. So we would go through Mary Kate's original, then we would go through her first reshoot and then her second reshoot. And yeah, that took like 4 hours, I think, to go through everything. We had help though from Jamie's friend, who helped piece together Mary Kate's scene 15 for Marissa. So yeah.
But
Yeah,
you guys finished editing day
Oh.
of premiere yesterday. Yesterday. You guys finished yesterday.
Yeah, Marissa, yep, she exported it day of. We were up like all night. I was working on the drawings. She was working on finishing up the edit, and I was sending her all the drawings. And oh my God.
So you slept really well last night then?
Oh yeah, we both slept like 13 hours.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
We have, both Taylor and I work full time. And so originally when I was like, oh, a short film might be nice, I was not thinking a 40-minute film. That's not a short film. I was thinking maybe like 12 minutes, and that's like the time I could commit to, right? So we had to really like buckle down and do what we could to like get this to where it was. I'm kind of amazed that we were able to do it, because it takes so much time just to go through the content itself, and that's only the first phase of editing. And then you have so many other things to do. And I essentially did all of the finishing myself. This is the longest film I've ever edited. And so it was definitely a challenge and a learning process. And I think I probably developed some eye strain issues sitting at my computer that long. But because I also edit for my job, so I've just been doing that nonstop for like 2 months. So yeah, but the end product, I'm glad that it seemed well received, and that people can recognize that it does take a lot of work, which I think is starting to be a conversation people have nowadays, that like people have YouTube channels and people understand like video editing. They see it all the time now. They kind of get that it takes a lot of production. Whereas I think a lot of people who don't experience those realms of creativity probably just think it happens, and then they see it on their TV.
Yeah. It was basically from like excluding when the cast and Jamie were writing, it was basically from the end of December up until yesterday. Was just nonstop work, no breaks.
So what made you guys commit to doing, like, because you said you were originally planning on doing maybe a short film, maybe only 12 minutes. Where did that change happen where they said, oh, actually this is going to be 30 minutes, 30 plus minutes? And when was the moment where you said, okay, let's do this. Let's take on this project.
I don't think there was any one moment. I think it just kept getting like bigger and bigger. So like, yeah, we planned the shoots. We were like, okay, 3 weeks of shooting. And then 3 weeks turned into 5 weeks. And then we had to do it just got bigger and bigger. And then like, yeah, there was more and more. So yeah.
I'll say that during the writing process, I was pretty hands off. I was moving across the country at the same time. So once I got the script to a place where Jamie was like, okay, you can look at the script now, I was like, oh my God, this is so long. Like it was so long. So I had to step in and say, okay, no, sorry, Casey, we can't do a horde of zombies. Okay, no, we can't do this either. It's just not possible for what we're doing. We got to like direct the focus of this project onto what it is, which is a virtually crafted film. It can't be a big Hollywood blockbuster, like you would expect, or even like you sometimes see online from online creators. Like those people have crews and budgets you don't see. And we don't have anything. So we have to really focus on what we can do. And so through a series of revisions, we were able to cut down a lot of the stuff that I felt would just take away from the experience. Like we would never finish if we had just went with the first draft. So we cut things down. We spent so long storyboarding the whole process to make it seem like something we could do, something that is manageable for our team. And yeah, just a lot of ambition, but also wanting to honor the cast's ideas and their writing and their input that they gave, their creativity, was the main drive, I think. But, it just definitely morphed into something that was always going to be unmanageable for Taylor and I. But,
but it takes a lot of commitment as well, because not only were you all ambitious, but you committed to it and you achieved it.
Yeah. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this. And so I was really grateful to Marissa because I was like, you're not seeing the script yet. You're not seeing the script yet. You're not seeing the script. I was like, I'm not giving you the script yet. I was like, we have to work for it. I was like, and then when I even gave it to her, I was like, okay, I'm giving you the script. And I like hid. But I wanted her, I'm really, and I say this, even though I'm talking about you, Marissa, because I'm talking to everyone else, I'm also saying this to you. I'm really grateful because when I did that, my thing was the goal of finding the fine line between honoring everyone, their voices and their creativity, and being like, okay, this is not possible. I want to talk to the production team. I want to talk to Taylor and Marissa, and I want to sit down and be like, okay, what can we make work in a way? And that's how all the drawings and all these things came about. And what do we want to make work? And that's how this like water thing came out. What do we feel like is not even helping the story? And it's just like an add-on that's also might drive everyone a little bit insane if we try to make this happen right now. But also like, how can we have the most fun doing it too? Because the storyboarding was actually really fun. Like I have to say the storyboarding, like for all the things was extremely fun. And also like, filming with everyone was really interesting doing the process of like when they did the train scenes and having them all come together and being like, okay, this is how we have to set up lighting. Because that was like the most technical heavy thing we had to do. Everything else was really artsy and like we gave a lot of choices and freedom as much as we directed. And I directed the actors and helped them out with their choices and all those things. But like having the lighting thing, that was really interesting too. It was, and that's the whole thing about the behind the scenes element. It's a lot of hard work and energy and love and attention. And I'm glad we have this crew panel because not a lot of especially in theater, you forget about the stage manager, you forget about things, you see the actors and you're like, yay, and then it's like bye. And it's like, no, there's so many people involved. Look at all those credits. Look at all the credits you see in the movie where there's like 500 names. Think about like the fact that Taylor and Marissa, and even like, and I didn't edit it, but even Maria, even myself, like the fact that there's only 4 of us and there's only 2 editors, like the fact that there's the fact that there's only 2 editors when it should have been like a team of 10. You know what I mean? So it's kind of incredible what happened through it.
It is incredibly impressive.
We had to kind of act like not only were Taylor and I the editors of this film, but like we also had to act like the mean producers of like, no, you can't do that because we're trying to save ourselves, right? We're trying to make the project actually happen. And so that comes to an idea of like budgeting yourself and your time, because I think we sometimes in collaboration view people as like unlimited resources of like, if they give consistent work, like, yeah, I can just ask them to do this. Yes, I can ask them to do this. And then it builds. But sometimes you got to like advocate for yourself and be like, no, this is how much I can do for you. That's going to be successful and that's going to be good.
And keep you sane.
And keep me sane and protect myself, right?
Exactly.
And I think also with a project like this, you kind of need to go with the flow attitude because there were so many things that we had storyboarded that we just had to cut because of time, because of environment, because of technological issues. When I was putting together, like, some of the footage looked better than some of the other footage. And I had to just kind of accept that what we got is what we got. This is a virtually crafted film. Like I can't push for my usual perfection because the imperfections of this film are a testament to the process.
Yeah, I mean, even while we were filming, it was me, Marissa, and Jamie just like messaging while the shooting was going on, while they were recording. It was like, do we really need this shot? No. So we cut so much, like already, like beginning and then during and then after. So there was a lot extra that we filmed, but it was just like, yeah, we don't need
Is
this
there
stuff.
any moment that ended up on the cutting room floor that you kind of wish you had had the time to live out fully?
You have
I'm sure there was.
I
I
don't
can't
remember
think of
anything.
anything.
I mean, there are things that we like. If we had more time, we would do different things. Maybe if the anime, like,
Oh,
yeah.
For Nika's scene, we wanted to have we wanted the footage to be handheld, and we wanted the camera to like follow her around,
Cool.
but there was nobody to help her film, so we had to, you know, adjust. But it was originally going to be like this really creepy, like, I mean, it was creepy.
It was
But
very creepy.
it was gonna be like a found footage, like handheld kind of like
Paranormal
like
activity.
drawing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, kind of going off of that, what was it like working with a micro budget or non-existent budget where you kind of had to use what people had?
I mean, I could speak. I think that was actually as challenging. Yeah, sure, we can talk about that. But I think it was actually really cool to see what our materials and resources can do and how we can extend them in ways we probably didn't think were possible. And it really is, again, like I said earlier in the other panel, it's a find a way or make one process because, you know, like one of the actors like was able to have someone film him. Another actor, like Taylor just said about Nika, had to film herself. So we're like, okay, how do we like transform the story to still hold the story and also be able to, you know, we were gonna have all these fires and flames, and we were like, we can't have fire go off in her house. Like, how are we gonna? So then we came up with this idea. Oh, like, and we were like, you know, this is when I was cutting down the writing process, and I like it was originally 45 pages, and I cut it down to like 30, and like all this critiques and stuff. I met with Taylor, Marissa, and also Lila, who's not here, was who part of one of the processing. We we're like, okay, this is what we're gonna put on our like stage manager dramaturg caps right now, and we're gonna see what. But I think having the different resources was really cool, and you know, especially for the train scene, I'm going to come to that because that's a technical, and I'm sure Taylor has a lot that she can personally say about that if you want to. But you know, that lighting cues and all those things was sent before, and mostly everyone came like already prepared, and so we just had to like tweak the things, but getting the same lighting in each of their homes to represent a train, we're like, okay, how are we going to do this? Because not everyone in the same situation. And Nick, he's 3 hours behind. So we're like, okay, we have to adjust the time so that way we can do Nick like the last. So it was really interesting. But I think that was one of the most exciting parts actually is the fact that you don't need fancy resources. You don't need a lot of money to create something. You just got to put your foot forward and be like, how can I do this? And talk with your people and your friends and do it.
Yeah, it's cool that, you know, basically this stop. Sorry. Basically this this whole process just kind of I'm hoping that when people watch it, they're like, oh yeah, like if you want to make a film, you can make a film. Obviously, you know, there's a point where like if you want to do certain things, you're gonna need other people, but you don't need all of these fancy cameras. I think everything was shot on a phone. Mary Kate used her DSLR at one point, but I think she ended up everything we used was from her phone. So yeah, everything was from phones.
Except stuff.
Oh, except for Todd's, who, yeah, his helper had a fancy Sony FS5, which is a cinema camera. So yeah, everything was phones except Todd's was high end.
And Taylor and I were in the background when we were filming. We were like, oh my God, I love that we have this person to film Todd. This is amazing. Thank you, Noah. Shout out to Noah for doing it. It was so like, hey, can you get this? Noah was like, you don't need to say more. Yeah, and I was like, wow, that's another like that. I was like, I was not expecting that because we weren't, you know.
It's the power of having someone in the room that knows what they're doing, right? And I think we had to act like teachers for a lot of, you know, our crew responsibility was like, what camera on your phone should you use? Like, what lighting should you be using? And, you know, in some cases, it wasn't possible to achieve everything we wanted. So we'd have to make compromises and explain to the cast, like, how how this footage is going to turn out from what you do in the room is really important. So yeah, we just kind of had to explain our way through and talk about it.
Which
Well, Misha disappeared, but yeah, I'm just gonna talk about the lighting the train for a minute, which is, yeah, this is kind of weird because it's like two people. Okay. Yeah. So I just lost my entire train of thought.
turns out okay, there's me.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So hi Misha, welcome back.
Hi, thanks. Sorry. My internet decided that it was just too much awesomeness in one room.
Yeah, so lighting the train scene, like having everybody have the same lighting was hard because usually it'd just be like, all right, I have my light kit, let me show up to your house. But we couldn't do that. So it was like I had to test it out with just like normal lights that people have in their houses, like on their desks and whatnot. And like, how do you bounce the light so that it matches and everybody's, and like, how do you direct it with like a light bulb? You don't have barn doors or anything. Yeah, and then how do you direct the cast so that they set it up correctly? So I think that was
That is
like
so
the longest.
specific and detail oriented, and I'm so glad you were in charge of that because I would not even know how to approach something like that.
Yeah, I
Be
think
like,
that
yeah,
was,
make a circle around your face. Just do it.
yeah, that was the longest setup process. And then we had to reshoot Nick's, which I wasn't able to make it to that, but Marissa directed Nick again of how do we set this up because we were having some trouble and then we were running out of time and phew.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I would just say, like, if you're planning to do any kind of collaboration virtually, the less specific it is, the better. Because this stuff was so highly detailed that you just want to like reach through and like move something for them so specifically, but you can't do that and you have to explain yourself. So it's really like a challenge to in trying to get your point across as best as you can, and that's a struggle. I would say no, that's what you're getting into if you collaborate like this virtually.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's even harder when you have like brain fog and words don't come out of your mouth, right?
I mean, one thing I could say, like just in terms of my story, my voice, which I think is really cool, is like we said in the other panel, and I think we said in the beginning of this one, I can't even remember. There's so many different workshops, but like something that we didn't know it was going to be a film until we decided it was going to be a film. And I think that's really cool because, you know, in a more, also, this was our first time ever doing something like this, every single one of involved, the first time ever doing something like this. So it was a real learning experience. And we're going to come back together at some point and be like, okay, what worked, what didn't, what can we tweak, what can we, blah, blah, blah. What can we do? So if we want to do like, and I think there could be so many different processes. Like maybe we do My Story, My Voice again, and the next process is a play. Or maybe it's like a poetry book, or maybe it is a film. And then it's like, okay, what are we going to very specifically, are we going to have one world where you're just multiple characters in that world? Like, are we going to do, and Nika, which was super cool, is we just had the residential home, but we were like, and some of the lighting, which we couldn't help, like wasn't the best. And so we decided ultimately to do a VHS like type tape, which I think added so much to it because
that was so cool. Yeah.
It gave her own world when that wasn't even a part of it. Like it just created something so much more, So the issues actually led to a whole new discovery, which I think was cool too.
Absolutely. And kind of going right off that, how has your work here in this film, what have you learned and how is it inspiring you for the future of THAC? You just said there might be another MSMV, or like, what have you found really juicy and really exciting that you didn't know before doing Returning Home that now you want to definitely take with you to the future?
For me, what I love about My Story, My Voice is it could be either a for-profit or nonprofit model. Like it literally could go each way, because it could be for profit where it's licensed to different programs and schools and different things and be like, here's a model that you can use that's beneficial. And literally, if you listen to all the cast members, look at how it helped them grow. Look at how it helped me grow. Look at how it taught us all something new or exercised our abilities and our creativity in new ways. So there is like a really amazing educational component of it. It could also go nonprofit, and where we don't license it out to schools and we keep doing this model in a different way and keep changing it. And I think something I was talking to cast members about earlier is, let's say like the next time we do this, let's say instead of 12 months, it's like a 2-month process or something like that, right? Like a show you or whatever, like, shows are in trimesters and things like that, or however we do it. What would be really cool is having people from MSMV Part 1, like a couple of them, be mentors to MSMV Part 2, like the second whole team. And that creates the nonprofit component where it's like, oh, we're doing a community effort where it's like we're mentoring the next and the next and next. We also like have talking, I'm not even kidding, we've been talking, I know Misha and you and I have got really excited about this idea too, but like retreats, workshops, art camp, like literally collaborating, doing creative work like this in retreat like settings and things like that through different places around the country, world. That's like a huge goal eventually. And also just shorter little sprints. I know we want to do our coffee shop this summer. Doing like a little
again, coffee house, not a coffee shop.
we're not making a coffee
We're
shop.
not building a shop to sell coffee, which would be cool, but I have zero qualifications.
Yeah, no, we're doing a coffee house. Like we've been talking about it. But like, there's so many different ideas, and I think it's because of the intersection of art, education, healing that like personally the route I want to continue in. I want to, everyone I collaborate with, I want to hear their ideas. Like if someone's like, hey, I want to do a web series, I want to encompass that and like be like, okay, let's do it. However, I also think it's really cool to have like sections where one part of THAC is like arts education, one part is formally production, like we're doing small production, and it will grow with the team. It will be really small, and then as more collaborators come on, it can grow where this group of people is doing this group is doing this, like as it, maybe I'm not directing every project, maybe we bring in a director and I'm just a part of it, you know what I mean, or I'm behind the scenes, like who knows. I mean, that's my take. Do any of you guys want to?
Yeah, I think if we were to ever do a film this big and complex again, it would probably be in person where like we have a cinematographer, we have like PAs on set, we have a director, we have a script supervisor would be great. Yeah, so I feel like doing a project like of this caliber would be like a down the road thing. And then I feel like how we did it, maybe take it down a notch, just a little bit, and then include, students, like film students, either high school students, theater film students, that we can be their mentors and we can, show them like, this is how you make a shot list, this is how you storyboard, this is how you film virtually, and this is how like you direct the actors, and then kind of like pass off some of that to people so that they can learn how to do these things with what they have.
Yeah,
absolutely, that's super exciting.
Yeah, so there's so many different components we want to go towards. And I mean, if anything, I think they're all possible. You just don't do them all at once, because then you go crazy and then like it's too much. But you can do little bits and pieces as you grow and as you do them. And like we said, we want to. I mean, like, and I'm don't want to speak for anyone else, but I do want a virtual component of THAC to exist. And I think the hybrid component is amazing because we don't all exist in the same place, and we want to keep working together and collaborating. It's cool because a lot of us either like exist in this country, like it's, I know Maria, you're going to Spain, but Maria even wants to continue working with THAC in Spain, which is going to be really awesome to see how that flourishes over there. So, there's so many different avenues.
Absolutely. We have time for a couple of questions. If anyone has any questions they want to give to the creative team crew of Returning Home, pop it in the chat. I have a question. What is one favorite memory from each of you? One favorite memory from production?
So hard.
I would
Keep it short, Jamie.
Jamie, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay, I would say even though they were long meetings, the like 10-hour meetings that we had when we were shortlisting, just because, I mean, that was really when I got to know Marissa and Jamie. And towards the end of that, it was basically us just going insane and like uncontrollable laughter. So it was just, yeah, it was like we were working, but we were also hanging out. And it was long, but I'd do it again.
Yeah, I don't know. Like yeah, I think we formed true friendship through this, which excites me more. I think more than anything else, honestly, because I think people and friendship and belonging is an innate thing of being a person. So, like, having that is wonderful. I'm gonna keep letting other people go because, like, I'm like, there's so many. Does anyone else have something to share, or if not, I'll.
I mean, yeah, I would agree with Taylor. And then like also the pool filming was fun. It was really fun. It was definitely different than anything I've done before.
You also got your vaccine like what, a day or two
Oh
before?
my gosh, I got my
Yeah.
vaccine the day before, and so I was
Oh.
like already like not feeling great. And then we were in the pool for like 10 hours and it was like 60 degrees out in LA. So we were freezing and I was like, I had I had aches and chills for like days after that, but it comes with the territory.
But still one of your favorite moments. Chills and aches and all.
It was only the wildest part of it, but yeah.
It was so funny being on Zoom with Taylor and Marissa. We're like, did you get down? Marissa like, is going down and her legs are
Yeah, your legs popping up and like wiggling.
casually turning around, floating. Oh my god, that was so yeah, that was fun. I loved filming in person with Casey. That was really fun. I cried. We had to retake her part of her running across with the like at least 10 times because like, every single time I burst out laughing. I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, this is hysterical. Like, because it was so like she screamed, but every time she ran, I was like, and then there was one part where she turns back and I'm like, she like totally on her own, just her being fully in the moment, where she's like, she stops. And then just keeps running. And I have so many different cuts of that. It's so funny.
It was like so much shouting too between like we're on your phone on Zoom and you're like, Taylor, we're recording, and I'm like, what? Just shouting back and forth at each other.
Well, hopefully you all get some good vocal rest and good like body rest after this. If you want to have any last words, we are at time. You guys are incredible. It's been awesome being in the room with you. It's been awesome being on the team with you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I'll say is I love that this could have happened. Like we made the most out of pandemic. Like I can say that for sure. And hopefully you guys all feel that way. But that's definitely how I feel. And regardless, like I think the showed us that we're capable of so much, like every single person involved. And I'm just really excited to see where it's headed and like the other things that we do together. So yeah. That's
yeah. I mean, like, yeah, my closing thought is this was a lot of work, and at points we were all shutting down because we were so exhausted. But I would have been miserable had I not had something to work on other than like my job, because my job can be very boring. So yeah, I'm thankful.
We'll be sure not to show this to your boss.
That even though it was very difficult sometimes, it was worth it. Absolutely.
I mean, I would just say that I'm ready for a nap. That's it.
well, yeah,
and you deserve one.
100%. So yeah, I mean, we can end it here. When does our celebration starts at 8, right?
Yep.
All right.
Yay! Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.